If you don't learn AI, somebody else will and automate you out of your job. That's what everyone seems to be saying. And you know what? They are totally missing the point. While most people are paralyzed reading about AI or arguing about whether it'll replace us, I've been building something different. Last week, my friend was diagnosed with ADHD. It was huge to finally understand why those years of struggling with focus and motivation were not flaws. It was just her brain working differently. On the other hand, she was now overwhelmed with figuring out new meds and routines that fit her nature. So, I built her an AI ADHD coach. Not to replace her doctors, but to be an on-demand guide with the knowledge of a neuroscientist and the practicality of a productivity guru. So she can turn her unique brain wiring into a superpower rather than a crutch. And that's when it hit me. This is how AI should be about. Not just a way to flood the internet with more spammy content, but a tool to help us find clarity and operate at our full potential in real life. Hi, I'm Shane, and on this channel, I share strategies and systems that bring us closer to the best versions of ourselves. Here's the thing, you already have all this power at your fingertips. By the end of this video, you'll have made an AI assistant that not only genuinely would help somebody with ADHD, but while leveling up your own AI skills. And once you learn how to build a system like this, you can apply the same principles and frameworks to create meaningful solutions for just about any domain that you care about, using just plain vanilla ChatGPT. I'm all about teaching people how to fish rather than giving them the fish. And that's why I'm going to go through fundamental AI principles first, because the tools are going to change. In fact, they are changing so rapidly that nobody can really follow, whereas principles change far less. It doesn't matter if it's ChatGPT, Claude, DeepSeek, whatever it is around the corner, you're going to be able to apply these same principles across any of these different platforms. The first principle that we're going to be talking about is why, what, how. This is actually one of the most important frameworks that I use pretty much for any project. Why this is really important. In the age of AI, we have to start thinking like a system designer. We're no longer just peons. What this means is that this part is absolutely human. You have to be 100% clear about your intentions and who is it for. Work with the machine on what to build in order to achieve your why. And finally, let the machine figure out the how. That's the major shift with AI, because before you had to be responsible for all of this. But with artificial intelligence, you have the world's best builder. It's basically a genie, but you have to be very clear with how you make your wish, how you prompt it. Number two, assistant type. What this means is, are you trying to use AI as a thinking partner or more like an intern? The biggest difference between these two is that as a thinking partner, it's really an advisor or co-creator type of deal. You're literally co-creating with the machine and you're trying to ask it for advice. Whereas in intern, it's very much output focused. This is where you have an existing process where you already know what is gonna be the output. So for example, let's say you wanna write a newsletter, or if you're trying to write marketing copy, design a website or something, you already have something in mind. And therefore, you're just wanting the machine to actually do the final work. So what that means is that for the intern part, it's minimal creativity. If anything, you want it to just produce consistent outputs. Whereas with the thinking partner, there's actually more role playing. It's like, what kind of role do I want it to take? For our build, as I mentioned, it's gonna be a neuroscientist and a productivity guru. These are the different mindsets, and we want it to be more of an advisor. Number three is context is king. The difference between getting a generic answer that's barely useful versus a response that is hyper-specific to your particular scenario is all about context, or how much the AI knows about your particular situation. The way that it understands your situation is the knowledge base of the GPT. It's essentially the brains of the AI. So for our ADHD coach, it's going to be the mindsets. The mindset of a neuroscientist, Andrew Huberman, as well as the productivity coach, which is me, plus the foundational docs It's not enough just to tell, hey, take on this mindset. There are transcripts of particular podcasts that Andrew Huberman have done that is ADHD related that we're gonna pull in order to form its knowledge base. And why do we not want to leave it up to chance? Well, because right now, generative AI makes things up. We need to specify what is the ideal input as well as the output that we want it to produce. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty inconsistent across the board. Building AI assistants is really like following a recipe. Here are the 4 steps that you got to keep in mind. The first one is design, followed by build, then test, then refine. What that means is in the design phase, to blueprint out what is it that we're trying to build before we actually go into the actual building process. It's always good to have a bird's eye view and be very intentional, because once you actually get into the weeds and stuff, it can get really chaotic. Number 2, the actual building process, where we dive into ChatGPT or Claude. This step involves prepping the knowledge base, that's a context, and really refining what is the input that we want to put into it, as well as the output. Do we want it to be friendly? Do we want it to be like have emojis for it to be easier to read? All these things need to be specified, hence the guardrails. And then we go into writing the instructions. This is exactly how we want this ADHD Coach GPT to function. If we did a good job with all of this, that means we're able to just copy and paste, drag and drop into ChatGPT, and it's going to build something pretty miraculous for us. And then we're going to test it. We're going to do a few demos just to demonstrate how it works in a real life setting. The 4th step is refine. Once you start using it, you'll get a sense of the real world applications, its limitations, when it goes wrong, when it gives the best answer, and then you're able to update the machine. This ADHD coach will grow with you. As you find more about your condition, add to the knowledge base so that your personal coach will have this understanding of you. Now we are diving into the actual build. Going back to our recipe, the first step of build is to prep the knowledge base, okay, the brains of our coach. We know for a fact that we want Andrew Huberman in our coach brain, but at the same time, Huberman has done like hundreds of podcasts, and yet if we ask the machine to, just take on Huberman's perspective, it's too general. It's actually much better to pull transcripts of podcasts specific to ADHD. Also keep in mind, AI knowledge bases have finite space, right? And we want to be intentional about what we feed our AI brain. Just like how we got to be intentional about not feeding junk food equivalent into our own brains. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very noisy. In this case, we got a playlist of some of his top ADHD, drive, and motivation podcasts. And let's say we go, Adderall stimulants for basically meds. We definitely want this in our coach, for our coach to know, right? Right here, all you need to do is to click copy, and then we're gonna go into transcriptions. This is a really cool tool from Tactic. All you need to do is just copy and paste the link in there, get video transcript, and it's gonna take a little bit of time, then hit download. When you hit download, it's going to download into this file. You'll see here that I've already prepped a bunch of knowledge files. So I know this was 2021-09, which is September 13th. That's all you need to do at this point. Hello there. If you are enjoying this video, finding it helpful, please consider giving it a like because it helps me out a lot. If you want to go deeper, I have an extended learning edition in my Map Nation that covers advanced examples that didn't quite make it to YouTube. You can find more details in the description below. All right, let's get back into it. Now that we have the brains of our GPT settled, I want to work with the AI around the inputs and outputs. How we expect our ADHD friend to be interacting with this machine, and what are they going to get out of it in return. So rather than trying to think through all the different possibilities, I'm actually leveraging ChatGPT even for this. And you'll see here, before we work on GPT instructions, let's chat through inputs and outputs. Given my purpose and knowledge sources, what do you think would be good inputs and outputs? The input and output should be both from a level of awareness of the user rather than the scientific medical professional. The reason why this is really important is because because I'm hyperlogical and so is Huberman. And if it takes on just like, a medical checkup, it's not going to be very user-friendly. Think of it from my friend's perspective. She's really stressed out about work. She just wants to understand more about meds. She wants to understand more about routines that actually help her daily life. She's not going into a medical checkup and basically filling out forms. That's not what this is about. That's why I said think from an empathetic therapist perspective, okay? Really important. So this is where it gets really, really interesting, is that one of the powers of generative AI is its ability to actually role play, take on different mindsets and perspectives. We humans are notoriously bad at thinking outside of ourselves, and this is where we can really leverage AI. Let's take a look. Inputs, what the user provides. The user's level of awareness should be found the foundation of inputs. That means casual, real-life concerns rather than clinical descriptions, imperfectly formed goals and struggles rather than strict diagnoses. It's like sometimes we don't even know what is it that we want until we start talking to somebody and starts refining it. And it's also subjective experience and challenges rather than hard data. I just want to tell this machine how I feel and help me make sense of the mess that is in my head. So here are the main categories of inputs. Okay, we have ADHD specific struggles, symptoms, and daily challenges. I can't focus at work, but I get super into things I enjoy, what's going on. Key insight, the user isn't asking for scientific breakdown dopamine deficits, but for actionable insights. This is really cool, guys. The machine has actually determined, is able to read between the lines to understand the main intent of what my friend might be asking, not just the surface level words. That's actually deeper than a lot of humans can do. Keeps on going. Oh, this is super important. Medication, supplements, natural alternatives. I take Adderall, but I feel it makes me anxious. What should I do? Very common question. This is where it'll pull in Huberman's expertise. They'll guide science-backed discussions, while Shane's approach will help frame practical habit-building strategies. Bam. It got it. Those are the inputs. Now we're talking about the outputs, what this coach is going to actually provide. What it's going to do is it's going to be empathetic and it's also going to be actionable. Here's what it looks like. Personalized ADHD management strategies, framing struggle in an understandable way, explaining why this happens, and then providing 1 of 3 steps. It even goes one step further with asking, okay, example output. It's actually acknowledging the user here. This is super common with ADHD because dopamine levels drive our engagement. You're not lazy. Thank you for recognizing that. And here's some recommendations. It's like one way to harness this is create a dopamine bridge. Pair something you love with the start of your work session. Boom. And it keeps going, guys. This is like so good. The reason why this is good is because we already fed it all this context as well as our intention. This is not a normal output. If you just asked like ChatGPT to give you a random request, it's not going to be this hyper specific. Again, with the positive reinforcement, this is excellent. We should communicate both input and output from the user's level of awareness. Just because we're providing structured plans and evidence-based answers doesn't mean that we have to be so technical or clinical. The point is to acknowledge the user's experience and provide guidance in an empathetic and accessible way. This is really important, guys. Like, not only am I accepting this output from the machine, I'm actually encouraging it to do more of the same, to really deep dive into the experience of my ADHD friend rather than from a doctor's perspective or like a productivity hacker perspective. And then I keep on reinforcing my intention every single step. To get the most personalized reply, the GPT should prompt for additional information from the user over time. Basically, I want to make it conversational. So if you think about a conversation with a therapist, they're not going to go like, okay, just give me a verbal download of everything that's happening in your life. That's going to overwhelm my friend. Instead, I want to have a conversation, and this information from her is going to be extracted out naturally rather than just like a data dump because real humans don't operate like machines. And then I ask, here's the key question. How do you think, given my intention here, again, I'm communicating my why, how do you think we can write instructions for our GPT to reflect this intention? Again, we have to be hyper-focused and hyper-clear about our why, and then work with the machine on figuring out the what. Crafting GPT instructions for ADHD-focused GPT. All right, let's break it down. We got role and perspective. We got Dr. Andrew Huberman and Shang. We got primary objectives. Answer ADHD-related questions, coach the user, prompt for additional details when needed, when it feels natural, non-overwhelming, and supportive. How to engage with users, tone and structure. Empathetic, reassuring, non-judgmental, encouraging, simple, actionable. Response framework. I like that term. Acknowledge and validate first, and then briefly explain why this happens, and then offer 1 to 3 actionable steps. And finally, check to see if they want even more personalization. Have follow-up questions to avoid overwhelming them. And then it keeps on going with these examples of how it actually interacts, which I freaking love. It's literally role-playing. It's like how the GPT should handle complex or multi-step requests. I want to write a book, but I always get stuck after a few chapters. Instead of generic writing advice, structure into actionable sprint plans. Week 1 to 2, daily for 15 minutes. Week 3 to 4, expand sessions only on the most exciting parts of the book. Really, really important for ADHD people to maintain their focus, which is working on interesting things for them. Does this approach feel doable for you? If not, we can tweak it. Oh my gosh, this is freaking awesome. This is a really, really good start. At this point, what I like to do is using Notion to capture all of this outputs. I actually created this template that you'll have access in the links below. I'll make this available, but I like to capture all of my outputs from this entire thread into parts that's really useful, because I already done the hard work, but it's really important to organize all these outputs in a way that is just ready for the custom GPT to take, and then we can just like build it. So you'll see everything that we mapped out before here with the audience, mindset, knowledge, and instructions, the design, the why, the outputs, inputs, build. It's all reflected in this Notion template, which is design. What's its purpose? What do I want to do? Blueprint, map, all that outputs. We have build, instructions right here. Who is the audience? I have all this here. This is all organized. So what we got is ADHD Coach instruction development. As you can see, I've went through like multiple iterations of this, okay? It's really important to track what are the updates, because sometimes the AI will make stuff up, or there's previous versions that actually work better, and you want to like Lego style it, like compile your own instructions in a meaningful way. This is basically the final iteration. And at this point, what I do is I go to ChatGPT, I put into the ADHD Coach right here, and let's go into edit GPT right now. So right here, I've given it the name. I've got a description, which is really just the purpose. And then I'm literally just like copy and pasting the instructions from my Notion output or from ChatGPT, drag and drop the knowledge base here. I like to have all my files positioned, ready to go over here. And also I gave it the ability to search the web for things, to create docs, which is Canvas, and then also image generation, because why not? You never know. I also created a nifty little logo for it. And that's it, right? Let's go to it. Now let's give it a test drive. Let's say we've got a medication question, right, for our ADHD coach. We literally just go into the chat right here. This is something that my friend might ask, okay? That's a great question. It makes sense. So the question here that I just pasted is, hey, I'm trying to decide between stimulant and non-stimulant ADHD meds. I have focus issues, but also deal with anxiety and sleep problems. Again, these are hyper-specific problems that might be relevant to my friend. That's a great question. It makes sense that you're weighing the options carefully, especially since you also deal with anxiety and sleep issues. Let's break it down. So first, it's acknowledging my friend's experience, and then we're gonna go through different options. If anxiety is a major issue, non-stimulant may be a better first choice. If focus is your primary struggle, a stimulant might actually work better. I'm gonna say, what combo of meds do you think could help? This is going to continue the conversation here. Okay, we got stimulant plus non-stimulant for focus and anxiety. And then we have anxiety and focus without overstimulation for focus and insomnia, focus and sleep. Man, this is pretty damn good. So already this is giving me a really good idea of what are the options and how I would have an informed conversation with a medical professional, be it a nurse, a therapist, or a doctor. Let's do another example. I need help structuring my mornings. I need new routines. I always wake up scrolling my phone, running late. On top of that, I wake up randomly at 3 a.m. and it's really frustrating and heavily impacts my work and personal life. This is literally just like something that me or my friend would just like tell another friend, right? In a very casual way. Let's see what our GPT does. That makes a lot of sense. ADHD can make mornings chaotic and nights restless, especially with phone scrolling hijacking sleep and focus. Let's break this into morning and evening routines specifically designed for ADHD brains. Wow. Okay, so what we got? Our morning routine, reduce chaos, increase focus. I like that. The goal is to stop rushing, reduce phone time, and start the day with focus, right? Total 60 to 90 days can be adjusted. Immediate wake up, get sunlight ASAP. This is very much from Huberman, right? The Mr. I gotta get sunlight for 15 minutes every single day. We got an evening routine as well. Set your phone curfew, charge your phone outside your bedroom, and then using a transition activity, audiobook, journaling, or reading an actual physical book. You get the idea. This is like hyper specific, and it took 5 seconds for it to make. Context is king. At this point, it's so easy. I could just share this GPT as a link with my friend or anybody who may find it useful. You get the idea. Give it a shot yourself. The best way to learn about AI is to stop reading about it, to stop watching the news about it, and actually to just try yourself first and then build something. That's why I'm leaving the link for this GPT below so you can take a test drive on it. I'm also creating a new AI amplification course that goes into all these principles, detailed tutorials, more case studies. We only scratched the surface here today. There is so much more power to be had with AI that I want to cover, I want to share with you. If you're interested in that, definitely sign up below. And to get you started, when you do sign up, you're going to get this Notion page with all the resources to recreate this entire coach on your end so you can start tweaking it, so you can actually start learning the process. Let me know in the comments below what you would like to see me build that is truly useful for you. All right, guys, until next time, I'll talk to you later.